we'll make the announcement. And
Here we go.
there we go.
It's on.
Good evening. Begin the meeting. We got a quorum. Everybody here, except for Craig Boissonneau. Planning board meetings are broadcast live and digitally recorded for broadcast later. They're broadcast live on the, what do they call it? Community channel or something? And then broadcast on YouTube, so you can see this great performance over and over again. We'll call to order, and first I'd like to compliment you on, Christina, on putting this package together. It's a good package.
Thank you.
You look bewildered, and you expect a compliment. It's a good job.
Okay.
Anybody got any reason to do anything other than burn down the agenda? I see some guests here. Do we want to move it around a little?
I make a motion, we start off with the folks in the audience here to press forward.
Okay.
I'll second that.
I recognize John from
Come on.
MRPC or whatever those initials are.
That's great.
Come on up to the table if you wish, John, and we can, is that appropriate, everybody?
This young man been here before.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I am Sean O'Donnell.
Are you guys together?
Yes.
Great, yes.
Well, you're certainly welcome to come to the table. Introduce yourself and.
John and Sean?
So which one on the agenda is that?
This is the, help me here.
Master plan.
Yeah, master
He's here
plan.
about the Historic and Cultural Chapter and the DLTA grant.
Yeah, we got some, a grant, which I believe comes to us in the form of not money, but hours of available work to produce a work product, just like you did
Oh,
a
yeah,
fine
yeah.
job on the economic development chapter of the master plan. So take us through it, John, if you want to.
Okay. Well, I've got a handout that I was going to go through for about 5 minutes or so. And it's like an introduction to master plans. And then we conclude with your District Local Technical Assistance Award for the Historic and Cultural Resources chapter. It's nice, as the chair indicated, it's staff time for me to work on your chapter at no cost to the community. It's funded by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So it's a good benefit to the town, and I applaud you for taking advantage of the program. Here's the handout that I can distribute.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go through it quickly because it's about 12 pages or so. But it's got some good information because I know you're putting your master plan together piece by piece, and you've been chipping away at it, and maybe some of this information could help. So turning to page 2, describes what a master plan is, and it refers to Mass General laws, where it's all laid out, all the individual chapters that need to be tackled to put together a master plan. Then moving on to the next page, page 3, it says what needs to be in a master plan. According to Mass General laws, that'd be a goals and policy statement, and chapters on housing, transportation, economic development, which is done, historic and cultural resources, which we'll be working on, open space and community services, a land use plan and an implementation plan. Moving on to the next page.
I might just add that open space has also been accomplished by the Open Space Committee.
That's
Okay.
terrific. That can really assist the community to get that chapter done, because you can take excerpts out of that plan and finish it rather quickly. It's very useful. Yeah, that's a big advantage. And you also have a housing production plan, I understand, as well.
Yes, we do.
So that'll really help you out on your housing element too, and you can finish that up in a jiffy. So this page, master plan typically serves as a plan for orderly expansion of municipal services, community's plan of action for the next decade. Generally, it's good to update a master plan every 10 years. and it's the foundation of your town's zoning scheme. Moving on to the next page, on page 5, these are some of the benefits of having a master plan. It identifies short and long-range actions and who's responsible for implementation. In the implementation chapter, you have you have short-range objectives and goals, and then you have longer range, and it says, oh, well, the Board of Selectmen is responsible for this implementation and the planning board for this, so it specifies the responsible board or commission. And the master plan also can get you some bonus points on state grant applications. If you apply for grants, you might get a couple of points, and that can make the difference of getting funded or not. So that's always a good thing, and it gives the town time to prepare for growth as well. Moving on to the next page, page 6, states that the planning board is responsible for putting together the master plan according to Mass General laws. And what I'm leading up to also, once the master plan is finished, if the planning board adopts it, it's an official master plan. So the responsible entity for putting together the master plan is the planning board. There's a couple of tips in here, like advertising your meetings, keeping minutes, involving municipal departments, letting them know that you need their help, reviewing previous planning documents and preparing your scope of work. Moving on to the next page, on page 7, describes some benefits that the consultant firm, including Montechusett Regional Planning Commission, that we could assist with a master plan. It's a lot of work putting one together. It's nice if you can have a consultant through district local technical assistance or other planning grants that are available that I know was on your agenda also. Some planning assistance grants where you can apply for chapters, actually, and it's a great opportunity for the town of Hubbardston to get some funds in the town and hire a consultant and help move things forward. Moving on to page 8, this lists some available resources like the U.S. Census information. Also, MRPC's Regional Transportation Plan. We've got all kinds of demographics in there that pertain to not just transportation, but also housing, economic development, and other demographics too, including population. So it's a great resource. And it's not listed here, but we also are updating our CEDS document, Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy document. And Sean's been working on that, and he's dug up a lot of great statistics that can really help you with your master plan too. So moving on to the next page, how long should it take to complete a master plan? Well, some communities don't have a choice, and you have to piece it together piece by piece. And I worked on Templeton's, and it took quite some time. It took 6 years because they had probably $12,000 that they could afford for each chapter each year, and that was the only way that they could really afford it. But in an ideal situation, about 2 years is good, or a little bit under, but under a year is too short. You don't want it to keep going and going and going, because then the community can lose interest. So moving on to the next page, on page 10, it's about public input, which is really important when you do a master plan. And citizen survey, I understand that you did do a survey a couple of years ago when I worked on your economic development chapter. But you should also hold 2 public forums along the way. And just make it open to everybody in town, all inclusive, advertise it really good, just to get the word out and find out what folks like, dislike about living in Hubbardston. And then another forum, once you've got like a draft document, to say, hey, we did our homework, we drafted up our draft master plan, what do you think of it? And you get some public input there too. So moving on to the next page, It's also a good idea to keep the public informed. I know that you have your website and you have the economic development chapter up there. It's great. It's good to have articles maybe in the newspaper as you keep making progress, and also television like this evening. And moving on to page 12 is about what chapters to actually do last, including the land use and implementation chapters. Basically, you can tackle any chapter that you would like at the beginning, including economic development, which you did. But next, you could do housing, you could do transportation. We're going to be doing historic and cultural resources, and that's all good. But you need to do your land use chapter at the end, because land use pertains to housing, it pertains to economic development, it pertains to services and facilities. So that's the chapter that you should tackle last, and then do your implementation chapter at the very end. And moving on to page 13, describes the steps to prepare a master plan. Inventory and data collection, looking at census information, just collecting all the data. And then step 2 is analyzing the data that's collected, and step 3 is develop recommendations to achieve your vision that are based on the analysis of inventory and data collected. Adoption of the plan, I had already talked about this a few minutes ago. Once the planning board adopts the plan, it becomes the town's official master plan. Some communities bring it to town meeting for approval to demonstrate support, but it's not a requirement under state law. So, and the final page here on 15 pertains to your district local technical assistance award, and it's a couple of steps that we would need to initiate to complete the chapter, along with the timeline too. And it's flexible right here, because after this evening, the next step that Montechusett Regional Planning Commission needs to do is come up with a memorandum of understanding between MRPC and the town of Hubbardston that the chair of your Board of Selectmen would need to sign. But we need a scope of work within that MOU, they call it, Memorandum of Understanding. So what we've got here, and it's in draft form, and if you folks have comments on it, would appreciate it, because I'm not sure of your timeline. But inventory and data collection, pulling together census information, working with the Historic Society. Do you have a Historic Society in the community? Working with the Historic Society would
We
be...
have two components to that.
Oh, okay.
Historical commission and
Commission too?
historical
Yeah,
non-public, not municipal group.
sure. Yeah, they would be critical putting together this chapter and communicating with those folks. So then we had that slated to be completed in June, by the end of June. And then analysis of all the information that we collected. We were thinking sometime in July. And we need input from the planning board and the public on all this information that we've gathered. And we were thinking perhaps we could come to a planning board meeting in August, or maybe even July if we speed things up a little bit. And we can present the information that we've got, and then you could provide us with feedback. And because you know your community better than we do. I live right next door in Gardner, but still, I don't know Hubbardston as well as you folks do. So we'd need to do that. And then would review draft recommendations at another planning board meeting, probably September or perhaps August. And then we would come back after we get all the input from the planning board, the public, and we would present the final historic and cultural resources chapter probably October, so. Usually it takes about 3 months or so to do a chapter, approximately. So, that's the scope of work that we outlined, and if you folks have any comments or anything on.
Any comments from the,
I just have a question. Do cultural resources include things like playgrounds and recreational resources as well, or
Well,
not?
that would mostly be under the open space element.
Okay,
But it would include things like cemeteries, historic districts. I don't know if I haven't done any research yet. I'm not sure if you have any historic districts. So also cultural things like any kind of cultural resources that might be out there, including any kind of events that you might have, community events.
yeah, we have a field day kind of thing, but it
Sure.
brings a lot of craft people, and
That would be ideal. Yeah, we'd be
you
looking
could
at
come
that.
to it, you could see it, it's
Sure.
coming up.
Okay. Live right next door.
I don't know how to access it, but I think I read correctly in the newspaper that a couple young people in town did a couple inventories of monuments and, anybody know, anybody read the Gardner, pardon me?
I was contacted about some of my research on monuments.
Yes, you did monuments, but I think two younger people, I would say,
Yeah, I know.
early high school.
I know who you're talking about, they asked me for some information.
Yeah, I would love to petition the public to send the planning board those documents, because I think be interesting to read it not only as factual information, but from a younger person's eyes, a view of the town. So I think we gotta dredge that up. If you could describe historical and cultural resource chapter in two and a half sentences, what would you say?
It's an inventory of all the cultural and historical assets in the community and recommendations on how to preserve that moving forward. In the importance of historical and cultural assets to the community.
There's a component to the CPA, CPC, Cultural Preservation Act, I think. They can do a number of things with the resources they have at their disposal. And one of the components, I think there's 3 or 4 categories they can work in, and one of them is historic. Will you, or should we, join hands with that group? Because they're important, that they know what they've done in the past in the way of historical preservation work. And they may have some ideas for the future, or ideas on how things should get preserved.
Mhm.
So,
That'd be very important.
yeah. And like I say, is there anybody here tonight from the historical group?
Historical Commission.
Come on up. Would you like to, I mean, you're here for a reason, obviously. I presume it's this.
Yes, I was informed that we were talking about it.
Come on up, yeah. Gary, you care to join the table? Do you have any thoughts on how this chapter of the master plan should be approached?
Will you have time to work with, I'm Kathy Hansgate, I'm president of the Hubbardston Historical Society, which is not part of the town, it's a separate historical group in town. And so my question is, will you be approaching us for the information that we have in our hands about the town of Hubbardston? Or are you wanting us to present to you some information in a document or something like that? How is this gonna be gathered, I guess is my question.
Yeah, we would definitely reach out to you. We would have to complete a chapter like this, and we'd set up a meeting with you,
Okay,
and we could discuss how we could approach it the best way to approach it.
Sure,
Yeah, but that'd be very important to me.
sounds great.
Great.
Kathy, how does your organization work? Do you have regular meetings, and can they mesh their schedules and?
We have officially one annual meeting and one semi-annual meeting, and then other board meetings as needed throughout the year. So we're somewhat flexible in that regard and
Good.
able to,
Terrific.
you know, if it
Great.
works for you and it works
Mhm.
for the board members to have a meeting on such and such Thursday night, then we'll do it,
Terrific.
okay?
Good.
In this master plan, now I'm wearing a different hat. I'm also chairman of the agricultural commission in town. Wearing the agriculture, and I'm sorry, I'm talking, so I'm gonna hit both things at once. In this master plan, where does agriculture fit into this plan?
Well, you know, I think in a couple of different places. My first thought is economic development, because it's important to a smaller community like Hubbardston, agricultural resources throughout the community. Also preserving the town's character as well is very important. It would fit into the open space element. So just off the top of my head, that's, you know, I'm looking at those two chapters right there.
I think definitely a cross-cutting theme through land use, open space,
Yes.
economic development,
Yes.
Even historic and cultural resources.
Great.
60 years ago, everybody was farming, pretty much. I think every kid in my class and going to grammar school was on a chicken farm, pig farm, or a cattle farm.
Well,
Part of our heritage.
you may or may
Change.
not be aware that,
Yeah, as it ever.
the town of Hubbardston, we'll have on our town meeting, there is a warrant to adopt the state law into our bylaws, although it's not technically required, again, it's not, but we plan to do it, whereby the Ag Commission can actually own farmland in the towns to help preserve that farmland. I'll be speaking to that at the town meeting. If you're doing a planning master plan, there are some parts of that that should be part of this master plan if you're looking at farmland in Hubbardston as a right to farm town. So
Agreed.
we can work on that wearing the other hat
Okay.
as well. So those would be my two areas that I could help give input to this document and would want to be a participant in giving input to the document.
That'd be
Sure.
terrific.
Great.
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's nice to meet you.
Hope to get your contact information.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
Can you add something? This is
Yeah.
Gary Gangus.
I'm chair of the Historical Commission, and I'm also a member of the Historical Society. What we do as a commission is we're trying to get all the cemeteries on the National Register of Historic Places. We're working on Rural Glen now, the paperwork for that's in progress. And then I photographed a lot of damaged stones there. I brought that to the Cemetery Commission's attention, that they need to be fixed. And recently there was a missing monument for 70 years. I found that, and they're working to get that. Track the family down if they want it, because it was replaced years ago. And there's another monument on Williamsville Road, Betsy Browning, in memory of her death, that was killed in a buggy accident. And that was in danger, it was leaning over by tree roots, so we had it removed and reset properly. So that's been already done, and we're working to get that on the National Register. And then next we got Warren Cemetery, we're gonna try and get that one on the register. So we're kinda overseeing, and the Paris Cemetery, our oldest cemetery, the gate was broken, so we got people to donate, getting that repaired, and we get that all fixed now.
Gary?
Yes.
When we asked him what this chapter was made up of, he said it was largely an inventory.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if, just as Kathy expressed that she had some kind of an inventory, and do you have something comparable on cemeteries or other monuments in town? Do you have an inventory or something written down?
We've got a listing of who's in where and who does some of that information.
That'd be great.
Okay. And likewise, can you cross-connect here somehow and communicate what you have to these gentlemen, give them a running start?
Yeah.
That'd be
That'd be
wonderful.
great.
And then I'm also on the cable committee where I do a lot of documentary film work. I'm in the filmmaking, and every month they're putting a new one on, so there's a whole list of documentaries of the history of the school and all the different aspects of the town. Got a strong passion for doing that. Then I'm working on my second history of the town, pictorial history. That's come along nicely. Just need more photographs to put a book together. And the grammar school is showing my films to the grammar school to teach the kids their local history.
Wonderful.
Had a great response with that. I'm working on actually about 4 film projects right now. I just recently got a nice quality drone to do some aerial flying over the town and work that in with I got copies of all the photos in the Historical Archives, Historical Society. And I can interview people what they're talking about, and I can show a picture of what they're talking about and making these documentaries.
When you say you have photographs, you mean you scanned them?
I scanned, they
Okay.
trusted me for 2 weeks. I scanned thousands of photos.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
These are some that I did here, these photos.
Yeah.
Do you
That's
have,
awesome, Gary.
do you have any mapping, like maps of cultural resources or monuments in town?
I got old maps of the town.
Mhm.
I think I got every one that pretty much that was made.
I think it would be very helpful to review, the state, they have something called Massachusetts Cultural Resource Information System, and they list out things like buildings, areas, structures, objects, burial grounds, but the data isn't always accurate.
Yep.
So that would be really helpful to bounce that off you too, and find out if there are inaccuracies. When I did Templeton's master plan, there were quite a few errors in there.
Yeah,
What are you
some-
looking for, like latitude and longitude, or?
Addresses.
Oh, addresses, okay.
Yeah.
And it's the Mass Cultural Resources,
Massachusetts Cultural Resource Information System.
Yeah, Rural Gwen, there was some mistakes that were made with that, and we found them, but it was kinda too late, they said, to correct it. Minor boundary mistakes.
okay. Well, if you can think of anything else we can do to help, put information at your disposal, either through these kind volunteers or others in the town that you think might have something, Cemetery Commission, Concom, you know, just tap into us and we'll try to get you to wherever you can go, or go directly.
Okay, terrific.
Yeah, you're certainly invited.
Okay, wonderful. Would, like a point of contact is nice, to a central point of contact. Would that be the planning board staff?
Well, I'm gonna ask about workload and whatnot, but I think it's a starting point.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
That'd be great, thank you.
Okay.
And how do we deal with the MOU? Do you put it in front of us tonight, and then we study it and bring it to the selectmen and talk about it, or how does that work?
Basically, generally what we do, I mean, that's why I went through it on the last page tonight, but I'm just gonna put, it's like a boilerplate kind of
Yeah.
contract that we have, and I would take what's printed right on here on page 15 and put it in there with this timeline, and we would pass it along to the planning board, municipal staff, who could bring it to the town administrator, who could have the chair of the Board of Selectmen sign it.
Okay, if you draft such a document, get it to Christina.
Yep.
She will get it to all of us, and one of us will be nominated to get, well, actually, you can just send it to the town administrator,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And then we'll figure out how to get the selectmen's and select person's endorsement on that,
Sure.
all right?
Okay. Meanwhile, we can informally start to work on it. Yeah, because
I have
you-
a sense that you already have.
We have, a little bit. So, because you've already been awarded
Yeah.
DLTA.
And Sean,
it's-
what is your last name?
O'Donnell?
O'Donnell. Any other questions?
I just wanna thank you very much for putting the time into this. This is very helpful.
Thank you.
Anything else we need to do?
Well, I think for district local technical assistance, I think, I don't have any questions at the moment, but I did see on your agenda that you were going to be talking about the planning assistance grant. Christina, was that?
The EOACC.
The
Alphabet soup, yeah,
Alphabet
exactly.
soup.
That's it. I have a copy for it.
And,
I'd like to, like-
That would be great.
we could be of assistance
Would you like to take
with that if you'd like us to start.
That's right, you were on the phone that day with the other person. We had a conversation, four-way conversation, Ryan and myself and
Right.
you and, I forget her name.
His hand
but,
Oh, that was Karen Chapman.
Yeah, that was when that was kind of initiated.
Yeah.
And then I lost track of it here. It kind of went underwater. How do we get it back up?
Well, we did meet with
Thank you.
the town administrator and Christina a couple days ago about the grant opportunity. We had forwarded it out to Ryan because we know that the town of Hubbardston's working on you're working on your master plan. It's like, wow, this is a great opportunity for Hubbardston to try and get a grant to get a couple more chapters done. So Sean could talk a little bit about the planning assistance grant. He's well-versed in it than I am.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So this is a grant that was issued just a couple weeks ago by the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. The grant amount is up to $50,000, which, as John mentioned, would cover a few master plan chapters, and writing of master plan chapters is eligible for this grant. It requires a 25% match, which actually the DLTA award would count as that match, so it wouldn't require any cash or money from the town's part. And that grant will be due by May 24th. So in a few weeks, and MRPC would be willing to help write that grant.
This is the grant application.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
And-
we need all the help we can get. Do you know something about this, that you've had conversation with Ryan, or is
We were
this-
in a meeting,
Is this teed up?
on Monday, yes, and we're going to be moving ahead with it.
And is Ryan prepared to incorporate these people's input?
Yes, that was the meeting we had on Monday, was actually with these two individuals, and we're gonna move ahead with this so that it, we basically, it might fund another 3 chapters, and getting things like the housing plan into a chapter of the master plan, which, they gave us a quote at the meeting on Monday, which is going around right now, what would be incorporated into that grant, and it would get us quite a ways into our master plan, which would be fantastic.
I got one other thing with the history. You go to Winchton, Gardner, Templeton, Westminster, they all have a nice building for their historical society archives, that the public can go in there and view everything, and ours is upstairs in the library there. We can't have the public go up there because it's not handicapped accessible. Plus, it's a small room.
Plus, it doesn't have the right fire exits, and
Right.
I don't think. I'm
And,
not sure.
Correct.
It's on the code.
So my vision for the town is somehow they can acquire, like, a lot of these buildings were donated, like Templeton and Winchton, like that, beautiful buildings. And, like that, so I'm linked up with them. If they find something of Hubbardston, they give it to me. If I find something of Gardner or Templeton, I give it to them, and kinda what belongs to what town, so. And, I got a high passion for that, and, I know if there's a lot of room in the school, I understand, could a room be set up there for, sponsored by the town to put, the Historical Society's collection? And I got some big hand buck saws from my great grandfather's sawmill in town, and a lot of artifacts and documents that they have no place to put them. And I want them to get into the archives before I leave. And I'm sure a lot of people have stuff to donate.
Yeah, there's quite a compilation of stuff up there.
And my family's been here since 1894, and I got a lot of stuff.
Well, we can't take that up here, I don't
Right,
think,
okay, I
but,
know, something there that-
I'm glad you aired it for the public, and we'll take it up with the selectmen, I guess.
Right. Because I understand they don't need half that school now, or a good part of it.
Well, I don't know anything about that, but
That the Historical Society could have locks on it, and it's, they can only open it, but it'd be there for the kids to learn their history, and as well as the community.
okay,
It's just something to idea to throw around.
all right. Anything else?
I think from our end, so the table that we put around that other handout would be thinking about which chapters to prioritize in this grant application. And MRPC's having done these chapters before, that's why we're very excited to help with the grant application, because we know the process and we can kind of lay out the budget from for the state's point of view. And so thinking about what is of greatest interest to the planning board in the short term and what chapters you would like to see prioritized would be really helpful for us as we think about the application.
I think, well, what's the board?
Didn't we discuss this before at one of our meetings?
Yeah, and that's how we picked out the historical, and
Right,
cultural
right,
one, and
right.
we got that far. And we're chipping away at the list,
Right.
which is, I guess, the way we have to do it. You talked about a town that has $15,000 per chapter. I think we have $15,000 for the whole enchilada, so, we.
I think you're stretching it too.
But we're doing it, you know, everybody's contributing, and we'll get it done. But I have a slight fear that we've zoomed into some of these chapters, and we kind of zoomed past the goals and objectives and the kind of the structure of the vision kind of statement. And to that end, on May 13th, there is a meeting with the selectmen, the planning board, and the finance committee. And from that, there's the big hope that we can begin to formulate a vision for the whole town. And then that would, of course, fall into the first chapter of the master plan. We can keep you posted about that meeting. I don't know if you want to attend, or if you'll see it on TV if you care to. And that's to my knowledge, that's the first stab at getting that chapter started. But anything that you have that you could give us on how to form a vision statement before the May 13th meeting, we could distribute it to the participants, and maybe that would be helpful. I don't know if you have such a thing, a little checklist, or, you know,
We could come up with something.
Yeah, I'm sure we could.
how to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we've ever really had a town vision.
Tom, with regards to this, I think we might need to do just the concept of a vote tonight on which chapters we'd want to do. This EOEEA grant is actually due this month, so
Yep.
we have to move ahead on it. So if we could get 3 chapters decided on, I mean, vision is one of them, it's the first one. If we
I
could do
would-
3.
I would press for that, because I don't wanna get all the pieces of the puzzle done without the cover of the box, you know?
Right.
And then economic development, historical, cultural, open space, we're gonna put check marks as done next to them. So that leaves land use. Oh, housing is done. Is housing done?
The reason
Do we
they're on here is
consider it done?
$1,500 is because they have a plan, like open space and housing both have a plan, but they're not necessarily chapters. But to change them from a
Right.
plan into a chapter, they quoted us here as $1,500 as opposed to 15,000.
Okay.
Just to transfer the plan that we already have into a chapter of the master plan.
All right. They also told us that the land use plan, I believe, would be second to last.
Right.
That's right.
So let's go down the list a little bit further. We see services and facilities, and circulation and implementation. That's the dead last.
Big services and facilities.
Yeah, let's ask them what that is. What is that?
That's like an inventory of all the municipal buildings, all the public services that you have in the community, and basically recommendations on how to keep what you've got moving forward and adding onto it so that it better serves the community. That includes police, it includes fire, DPW, all the different departments.
Like recommendations for how different departments can interact with one another and coordinate on different projects and services, and where there's opportunities for,
Right.
I
for
believe it also
collaboration.
incorporates the council on aging.
That's
So
right.
Yes.
that would bring that one under review as well.
That's right.
There's been a lot of work on facility planning, though. It's been going on through Ryan's work, I think.
There's a capital planning group.
Group, right, and they've put together
I
sort of a
think-
needs list. I don't know.
I think it's just kinda getting off the ground. I'm not sure. There was one a while back, and then it petered out, and now they're resurrecting it. I think.
I just think if we pick that one, you would also find a lot of the work has been done.
Good.
And you know, it might not be the planning board that would take the lead so much as that group.
We're just the impetus, like with the historical and cultural, we're the impetus that gets it going and directs and gets everybody talking to each other. We're not necessarily completing these chapters, we're sort of pointing the MRPC gentleman in the right direction to speak to who knows what is going on.
And could you tell us a little bit about what circulation is?
Oh, that'd be transportation, like your transportation network. That would include roads, it would include trails, hiking trails, biking trails, what
Water trails, you know, canoe places and lakes and,
that would be under the open space, I think,
Okay.
more. But it would also include taking a look at any dangerous intersections out there.
Oh.
Would look at crash statistics throughout the community, and what you can do to improve safety, would make recommendations for that. Would make recommendations for walkability within your downtown area too, and near your schools.
we are initiating well, it's been going on for a couple of years now, a
Downtown.
downtown redo, which is
Main
a
Street, yeah.
complete streets?
Yes,
is that what they call
Main
it?
Street.
Streets, yeah.
Yeah,
Which
it's got
is-
a section of town. What would be very interesting is how does that section marry up to the older undeveloped sections? You don't want a, you know, person going along on a very nicely laid out section of road and then all of a sudden you're in gravel or something, you know? I think I'm hearing, I'm gonna nominate some. The statement of goals and policies, the services and facilities, and circulation. They're three $15,000 lumps. And the housing, conversion of the housing plan that we have to the housing plan chapter that we need. Now, you said it was up to 50,000. We just identified 46.5, so. And also cognizant of land use being second to last and implementation being last. Does that make sense, John, or should we put some of these other things up further?
It makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
Sean, you with this? How about the board, you guys?
Sounds
We
good
have
to
to-
me.
Safety is, I would, you know,
Mm-hmm.
traffic safety and,
Well, if you wanted to fill in your 46, you can also, he said the, integrating the open space and recreation plan into the existing plan, you know, integrating into the master plan is only a $1,500 job.
oh,
So
I didn't
bring
see
you
that.
That's right, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's another
Yeah.
kind of a translation or
Yeah.
conversion.
But we have to apply for this grant, right? 'Cause,
Yes. When's
uh,
that due?
It's the end of the month, so it's the
And they're gonna do it.
24th of
24th.
May.
Oh, you're gonna do the application?
They're actually going to help us with the application.
Okay, great, I missed that, sorry.
I'd need a motion that we identify statement of goals and policies, a relatively small housing conversion, a relatively small open space and recreation conversion, and then a major services and facilities and a major circulation as the identified chapters and components that we asked these gentlemen to apply for.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Bill.
Seconded.
Seconded? Okay, all in favor?
Yeah.
Great. Appreciate very much you coming in. If we're done, I mean, I don't wanna rush you out, but we're,
I think
are we
we're
done?
Yeah.
Okay. And you will give us an MOU?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just wondering what the size of the DLTA grant was.
The DLTA? I think it was about $10,000 of labor, not money. It's
15,000.
15,000, okay.
Yeah.
That's the
It's-
size of the grant,
Yeah,
$15,000.
but in labor,
Labor.
not in funds.
You get staff, man-hours funded by the state, the equivalent value of that, not the money itself. And the value is good. We did the same thing on the
Thank you.
economic development. Anything else we need to hit on this topic?
I think we're good.
No?
Yeah.
Thank
We're
Thank you,
done.
Donna.
You owe us an MOU.
Yes,
Okay.
we do.
Wow.
Super.
Terrific.
Thanks for coming in.
Sounds like trouble.
Thank you very much.
Thank Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Nice to meet everyone.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Gary, for coming in and contributing.
And have a nice evening.
Thanks, you too.
That's a major chunk of the meeting out of the way there. Thanks for all your help, Christina.
You're welcome. Just, you know, we have the Denali's here.
Yeah, I saw them higher on the list. We should invite you up if you wish. Bill isn't coming, is he?
And not that I'm aware of, he
Yeah.
wasn't.
He didn't volunteer. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
If I recall correctly, you were here about January.
Yep.
And we mutually agreed that we'd give you a chance to find a new location for your business between, up till sometime in April. You know, we're not running a clock here, but
Yep.
we just really need a progress report. How are you doing?
So we extensively looked into building. We got multiple quotes from multiple builders. It was going to be around $300,000, which is just well beyond our budget. So we've been looking for other places. Recently, we've been talking to the owner of the old Archambault carpet store, and we seem to be able to work out something with him. More than likely, we've got our financing approved. We just want to make sure that it's going to be okay with you guys for us to run the photography business out of that location before we make the offer.
We, I think you live very close to
We
it.
border it.
Well, isn't there another lot in between?
No, there's another lot behind it, which is also ours.
Okay, I think I saw a map that looked something like this, where there was your home and driveway, and then a empty lot.
That's
But
ours.
it has 50 foot of frontage.
Yep.
And then the Archambault carpet store, so to
Correct.
speak.
That empty piece of land is ours.
Yes, it is. And I don't know if the concept was, well, what is your concept? Let me ask you.
Well, there's two different routes. One of them is that, could we extend the grandfather status even though it hasn't been used for 2 years? And the second route would be to add it to our property and then use it as part of our residential property because our home is on it, so then we would technically be allowed to run a business out of it.
Okay. The potential snag, not a snag, but a potential consideration, not a snag at all, there's no snags here, but, is can this property jump to this property and still be considered contiguous? Or do you have to, combine all three? You know, that's the only thing that and that's not a legal opinion, that's somebody
You can
looking
do
at
that
the
at
map.
closing, I believe, can't you? You can transfer them all to one deed.
Oh, you can do any number of
Right.
things, but I don't know how to do it. But when I looked at the thing, I said, oh, there's another slice in there, and it has to be. Because I think where you would end up would be
And actually that,
auxiliary use.
that's
or-
actually a right of way. Our properties actually do border without the extra piece of land.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, they touch without the extra piece of land. That's a right of way on our property to our extra piece of land.
It
They do-
shows as a separate parcel
Okay, that's,
in the assessor's maps, but I'm not sure they're up to date. You'd have to look at your own deeds and whatnot. But
Right.
I can't really give you advice on how to do this, but.
Well, I think his other question too, Tom, about the grandfather clause, the carpet place has been closed for numerous years, so the grandfathering clause would be gone.
Yeah, it would be difficult to, it's a different use, and it's a time-lapsed thing.
Right.
I don't wanna say the word expire, but I think it's expired.
yeah.
Is that where those folks were here on the list, on the agenda?
The Archambalds, actually, that's, they got in touch with me, they're currently discussing this matter with the town administrator and with the zoning enforcement officer who's out of Gardner. So they're hoping to get an answer from him hopefully this week with regards to that, so, because zoning enforcement has like the final say on whether or not that's going to be applicable. And they've done all the grandfathering background on that. So I know the town administrator has been in touch with the zoning enforcement officer with regards to this, so they can give the Archambalds an answer, both on whether or not they can sell it here or if they could sell it as commercial. Technically, I think they came back with the same thing Bill said, that the grandfathering has expired basically. But they're still looking into that, and I know they were gonna give the Archambalds answer very shortly. In fact, I got an email from them less than an hour ago stating that they were expecting an answer today from the TA.
So
And they may
basically-
not have come tonight, so.
So basically, we need a little bit more time.
Yeah, and I'd just like to compliment you. I think you've been good citizens, you know, you're coming in and talking to us, telling what you're doing, keeping us informed, and I'll use the phrase, playing by the rules, you know.
Trying.
So, and so I'd like to thank you for doing that. And I'm certainly willing to give them more time to iron this out.
Also, I think it's awesome they wanna stay in town, cause we don't have a lot of business here.
Yeah.
We're trying.
Like to keep you in town too.
But
if we
this
can
is
do
our
it,
last
you know.
option.
This is our last
Right.
option.
If this doesn't work.
Well,
So you guys wouldn't come back after us if we combined all of it together and that was a home business?
Well, that's correct. That's what you would be eligible for.
Okay.
The home business law says something like it has to all be on one
Mhm.
piece of property.
Yep.
And that's where, if that's where you're headed, then it would be compatible with the law. So I don't see a major problem there, but I can't promise you anything. You gotta figure out what you actually do and how it works out.
Yep.
And what the
So-
zoning says,
Hmm?
and what, like she was saying, the building inspector's office.
It is that they're in touch,
Yeah.
and hopefully they'll get an answer for you soon.
Can you get a sketch of this to us, the plots or plan
It's
of
on the,
some
it's
sort?
on the assessor's maps.
Yep.
You can,
Well, it isn't,
I can,
Do
it's
you
on
know
the
the lots on the-
GIS.
all under
I'll-
your name, all under their name, all under,
I'll
Oh,
send you a
what's the
PDF.
address, John?
It's
Yeah, that'd be
245 Gardner Road is the carpet store. Mine is 243.
It's on the maps, I looked it up myself.
Now,
Yeah.
are both of
okay,
those?
yours is 243, okay,
I
I see
think-
the 245 on the agenda.
Right.
I think there's,
That's
a-
from-
The
yeah, the
extra
open
piece of land
space.
doesn't have an address.
Okay.
you don't get an address until you get a building permit.
Correct.
But it would have to be 43 and a half or something.
Right, yeah. Yep.
Okay, I didn't recognize that. I didn't read the deeds or anything. I didn't recognize that as a right of way, but it looks like a separate plot.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, on the documentation we were given when we purchased it, it shows it as a right of way, and that it is our property, and then that is just a right of way to the extra piece of land.
I don't
So-
think there's any doubt that both of them are your property.
Yes. No.
So you own two front, so the carpet place, I'm not somebody who's lived in this town a long time. There's your house as a carpet place with a right of way between it,
Yeah.
which goes to land which you also own behind it,
Behind the carpet store.
behind it, okay.
Yes.
So, so that right of way was for the benefit of the carpet store.
No, the right of way was for the benefit of the extra piece of land that came with our home. Because the
Came with
carpet
your
store,
house, okay.
the carpet store has road frontage. It doesn't need a right of way.
Well, could have parking or whatever in the
Right.
back,
Mhm.
right.
Yep.
Okay, so you would combine the whole thing into one
Parcel.
lot. And we don't have the home use restriction, the home use, accessory use has no provision that they have to be in the same building or anything, right?
No, they're not, they don't have to be in the same building, but they have to be on the same property.
Okay.
Yeah, for instance, the llama place, you know.
Right.
It's a barn, and we got a little store in the barn.
Mhm.
Yoga, the
At
yoga
least that-
barn.
That's
and-
one bit, one
That's the
piece
way
of
I
property.
see it. Now,
Right, that's how
The
I
building
read it also.
inspector comes back with something different, we're gonna have to
There's-
talk.
Yeah, there's a few businesses right along that route of that passage of 68, the
Mhm.
yoga barn and you said the llama place that have separate buildings that they run businesses out of
Right.
on the property.
I think you're on the right trail. I'd make a motion that we give them another
60-year
weeks, month,
extension?
2 months, whatever we need. Pardon me?
Excuse me, no, I was just,
No, what?
I was fooling, it said
She said
60-year
60
extension.
Oh,
year.
60 years. Well, that'll certainly
We should
outlive me.
go with that.
No, I'll second that motion.
What are you looking for, 2 months? How much do you need, John? I should just ask.
I mean, I guess it really depends on how simple this all is, right?
Depends on what the zoning
Yeah.
board
So,
says and what
well,
the.
you can always come back.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
you're-
So I guess
you're-
it depends on when you want to hear from us again. You know, I'd say 2 months, but if you want to hear from me in a month, I'm happy to be here in a month.
Well, that's very courteous of you.
Is
Why don't
three,
we-
3 months appropriate, do you think? They're doing the right thing here.
Yeah.
I don't wanna ask them to keep coming back to us.
I don't know
And
where
maybe
your
send-
leases are and all this stuff, so.
Maybe
Last
you
time
could-
it was
No.
90 days, we could just give them another
If it-
90 days.
And I'm happy to send email updates.
You send an email
as well.
If it
to let us
generates a
know.
pinch,
Mhm.
let us know.
Yeah,
I mean, We're
absolutely.
not interested
Mhm.
in putting out a deadline that's arbitrary.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, what's the motion?
You made the motion.
Well, then 90-day extension, another 90-day extension, if that's compatible with your plans.
Yes, absolutely.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
do have a question though. If you wait too long, do they have the right to sell the land to somebody else?
Which land?
The carpet stores that we're talking about?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, he already could sell it to somebody else, but it's basically valueless because it has no septic, no well, and it's not
If
commercial
the
anymore.
zoning board comes back and
So-
tells them that it's not commercial, then they have nobody to
Then they
sell
have
it to.
Right, it's
So
basically a
they-
piece of land with no septic and
So
no well.
that's kind of what we're hoping
And it's
for.
got a building on it.
Right.
My perception of it is that it's not commercial because of the expiration of a
Correct.
special
Correct.
permit.
So as of right now, it's not commercial nor residential, because it's not
That's
a
right,
residential.
it's not residentialable,
Exactly.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How,
So,
how would you handle the lack of a septic if you're
We
gonna?
would put one
We
in.
already
We
have the
a
plans and
design.
everything.
Mhm.
We
We have
have
a
all
septic
that.
design, we have a well
According to
quote.
the owner, the permits have already been pulled for the septic, they've already got a plan in place, which we were going to change anyways and
well, I
redo,
would
but
go and verify that with the Board of Health.
We're-
Well,
gonna
I
do a
can
new one
verify
anyways.
it is in place, cause I did part of that, so I was there.
There we go.
I wear a hat for that, yeah.
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 Well, it sounds like you're doing your homework.
Mhm.
If we can help in some way, I second the motion that it's nice to have a resident-owned business in town.
Mhm.
And if we can help in some way, fine. Otherwise, keep us posted.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you either hit a glitch or you hit a breakthrough,
Mhm.
let us know,
Mhm.
and
Will
we'll
do.
be
Great.
glad to meet again.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
in.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Nice night.
How long would that be closed? 5, 6 years?
I bet you 4 or 5 years.
More than that. Time flies.
Yeah, it does.
All right, back to the agenda. Any reason why we shouldn't start at the top?
Sounds good.
95 Williams Road, rock removal. I believe on April 12th, Bill Murray walked it with a able assistant from the planning board,
Yes, I did.
and we haven't seen his report yet, have we?
No, I've asked for it, I have not gotten it yet.
Really?
All right,
Wow.
would you ask him to send in a sketch of what part of this property he walked?
Okay.
Because we might have to send him back and say, walk some more.
Well, he was given everything that, we were given by Mr. Troy Gunther, with regards to what the
Right.
dimensions were and everything, so, I'll ask him again.
But, correct me if I'm wrong, when you mentioned to me that you walked it with Bill, that you really only walked one stretch of wall.
Correct.
You didn't turn corners and go off to the back and down the side
No.
and all that stuff. And there's quite a bit of wall, and there was,
A lot of devastation.
15 10-yard hallways were taken out, so, we really need the whole view of this property. Very good. 91 Williamsville Road is a solar that, they came in last time and gave us the, artist, or the, what do they call it, fake photograph of the,
Landscape.
new landscape. And Bill was to review that and also give us a recommendation, I thought, right?
He was also going to do the compliance assessment of the entire property. He
Ah,
was gonna
that's
get in
right.
touch with 91 Williamsville with regards to a walkthrough, to make sure that everything, not just the shrubbery, were, as they should be. But I haven't heard anything from, Bill with regards to a timetable for when he plans to do that.
Well, could you just tickle him on that?
I will.
We're down to Judy and Roger Archambault, which I think is the subject.
Archibald.
Bill, you're full of it tonight. They are working with the party we just met, the Demalias.
Correct.
So we'll jump over that and let them work together.
Gravel pits?
What happened to Cataisto?
You sent the letter out, right?
Yes.
Has he responded? It was a registered letter?
They were registered letters. I've received confirmation that the Marinellis have picked theirs up. I have not received the one from Cataisto yet.
Would you send a second copy to Jane to this, the same gentleman you wrote it to the first time, but care of Jane, oh, what's Jane's last name? DeFranco or?
No, he's the, president of the Rod and Gun Club. I know him too, I can't think of his name.
Federico.
Thank you, Federico.
Federico. Jane Federico.
Same address?
That's,
Gardner Road.
she is his sister, and just maybe, I think he lives in California, and he may
He
not
does.
be getting the mail, and if she could
Okay.
forward that to him somehow, it would be very helpful.
Okay, so you want another certified letter?
Right,
To the same
duplicate
address
deal.
with, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll even,
probably should send it to where she lives on Gardner Road, right?
I don't know where she lives, but I think if you sent it to that address, it would get to her.
You think so?
Gardner Road at the corner of Ragged Hill.
What's the name of the business? Just send it to the
Trails,
Happy Trails.
Happy
on
Trails.
Gardner Road.
Country
Country
Trails.
Trails, thank you. Thank you.
I
Happy
offer
Country
that
Trails.
because
Gene
it's,
Autry?
you know,
So you want me to send it to Country Trail?
Happy Trails?
yeah, Country Trails, attention Jane for her brother, and I forget his first name, is it Paul or?
Who?
The gentleman, the gentleman's actually doing the work.
Oh, I don't know.
All right. Marinelli, we sent I think there's two issues with Marinelli. One is they owe us money, and two is there's construction debris. Back in January, you sent out the construction debris letter.
Mhm. And the letter sent out on April 11th included both, the construction debris and the invoiced amount due.
Okay, anything back?
No.
Any little green slip back from the?
From the Marinelli only, yes, not from Batista, because they were sent out the same day,
Okay,
so.
well, what do you wanna do, folks?
Wait a month and send another one?
I think we just waited a month.
I know,
No
well,
month.
that's what the original plan was, to send one a month for 3 months or so, just.
All right, would you, put it on the calendar to, what was the last date?
April 11th.
April 11th? So
May and
May 11th, send another one.
June. What's the next step if we don't get a response?
Well, I think we'll have to talk to KP Law and ask them what our next step in case we don't get a response is.
Okay.
I don't
An
know.
unresponsive step.
Yeah,
Do the letters request they appear before us, that they come to our meeting?
No, just that they get back to us with any information regarding, what we are asking about. I did forward those letters to the board.
I'm just thinking maybe the next letter ought to be
A little more,
please
Yeah.
come and visit.
a little stronger.
Respond with a plan.
Well,
If
then-
we don't receive a plan by that date, come to our next meeting, explain what's,
Okay. So it'll be respond or
That sounds
appear.
good.
Can you draft up such a thing?
Yep.
Do
Respond.
we need a motion on that, or?
I make that motion.
I'll second it.
okay.
I'll sign the letter.
All in
If-
favor?
If you call me, I'll run over and sign it,
Okay.
but
I'd say walk, I wouldn't run, the sidewalk's not very safe.
I'll walk. That's why they call it a crosswalk.
Oh, I wonder if if they have any interest in selling that.
I'm sure they do. I think it's
What,
been
you
for
wanna buy
sale
it?
for
No, but
15
boy,
years.
that would make one great place for the Hubbardston Gun Club to go down to. You know, realize the height and the ranges that they could set up down there.
I don't know how,
I have no idea, but I'm sure everything down there is for sale. Next topic, oh, is that it for gravel pits? Is there anything else going on?
That's all I have.
Okay.
scenic roads?
Scenic road, Craig was our scenic road leadership. Craig has missed quite a few meetings, so. Well,
You want me to contact him, see if he has any updates, and I could email?
yeah, I miss his input, I miss his,
Well, let me do that tomorrow.
contribution.
I'll give him an email or a call,
Yeah.
and I'll give you a call. And then maybe you can send an email.
We'll just send a
to
quick
everybody.
note out.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know.
well, I'll
about
send
this.
it through the office,
Yeah, you're right.
it's safer.
I drive around a little bit and I see all kinds of broken through walls, but. So we're gonna move past scenic roads?
Yep. Noise report.
Noise.
Noise.
Here we go.
Hey.
Oh my.
Huh?
Kendall gave me this at the beginning, that's what I was over there copying
Oh,
diligently.
okay. Wasting paper.
Goes, yeah, I've got my copies.
Oh, you got
Oh,
it?
that's
okay.
right, he has a copy.
Yeah.
It's yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you
Before my computer decided to die,
It's a dead one?
it's a dead one, and I put it up on my shooting wall, and I ordered a new one. I keep threatening to do it, and Sheila says, why don't you just shut your mouth and do it? So I did. Anyways, I went and pulled out the noise control laws for Lunenburg, Lexington, Ashland, Fitchburg, and Bill Ricker. And a lot of it is the same. Seems like the towns have, there's a slight difference here and there. It seems like they're all pointing at, if you look at it, the current Massachusetts laws, which I thought was,
They're mirroring that.
yeah, there's one here and there that maybe a little bit more stringent than another town. But,
And that's probably because they've dealt with different issues, probably.
I'm sorry, yes, yeah. So if you run through these, you'll see that there's some of the differences. And I think that this gives us kind of a good idea of what we, if we are going to, which I'm assuming we are going to, we want to create another bylaw or update to what we have. I forget if we even have one.
I
On
thought
noise
we had
pollution.
one and it fell by the wayside somehow. You explained that once.
Yeah, you had talked about that, Bill, because you had said that.
It was under the Board of Health at one
Well,
time.
correct.
And the police department was enforcing it with the Board of Health, and I believe that came to a stop. And nobody's enforcing it right now, I don't believe.
Can you put your hands on the document, or is that?
I can try to, I'm not sure. Let me look in the Board of Health regulations first.
Or the chief?
Right. Well, they could go into a nuisance call, after, you can't start running equipment till after 7 in the morning, like the library does at 6:30
Mm-hmm.
over here. They've done that quite a few times. 'Cause my bedroom's right there, I hear them. And, that's a noise complaint. But, I don't know what their enforcement is. I don't know what they're doing as of today to enforce things like that. I don't know. But I can look up, I got the regs at home for the Board of Health, I'll read up on it.
Okay.
But I know they did away with the bylaw and they adopted, I'm pretty sure, the state law. But I don't believe anybody's enforcing anything. As to what, to this depth.
Well, the enforcement for a state law would just be the police, right?
Depending what it is, yes.
Yes.
And then it goes to the courts.
Yeah.
And that's what they were doing in the past. So it could be that, but I don't wanna say for sure until I really look into it more.
Look into it.
Yeah. Cause where's the state law one? That's Lunenburg.
The state law that I had brought in,
You brought that in before, right?
yeah, I brought
Okay.
that in when we first started talking about it.
Right.
And that's sending it home with all my other copies.
All right, so what do you wanna do? I mean, we read them?
Well, if Bill can find the one that he was just talking about, go through it and then update it.
By cherry picking the
Cherry-picking
good
out from
things
this
out of
or
this compilation?
Some ideas, maybe have a hearing.
I'll email you, we'll get together and talk about it.
Okay,
How's
that'd be
that?
good, Bill.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Alright.
These are not zoning bylaws though, right? They're general bylaws from these towns?
That's what it looks like.
These are,
It's a
The last
bylaw.
one's an ordinance, cause they're a city, Fitchburg, but these
I,
are, cause I'm just wondering,
It says noise control bylaw.
bylaws.
But we don't
It
know,
doesn't say zoning bylaw.
In Bill
Right.
Ricka, you're right. And
So
there's
the-
a
Well,
couple,
Lunenburg too.
so that would probably make it a general
so I don't know
bylaw.
whether,
every one of them,
Lexington's
and I
a
should have
city.
written that down, every one of them came out of, I wanna say it was zoning, but I can't swear to it.
Doesn't feel like
I'm sorry,
it. Doesn't
doesn't feel right?
feel right. It's-
it seems
They
like more
don't
of a,
say zoning bylaw, it's likely a general bylaw.
in which case I don't know that we, as the planning board, would sponsor a general bylaw. We'd have to get some other groups in town involved, I would think.
Well, we could do it, if we made it a bylaw. If we don't make it a bylaw, we could recommend another party take it up, like the selectmen, or a citizen's petition, or some such thing to get it up in front of the people.
Yeah. Because it wouldn't be part of our zoning bylaws, I don't think.
Where was it before, Bill? Was it the general or zoning, or you don't remember?
Originally, it was under the Board of Health, and the Board of Health.
That would be a
So it's
general.
like a regulation under the Board of Health, perhaps?
Yeah, that was before I was even involved with it, so I'm not sure how it was, do you remember any of that, Ed?
It was the Board of Health.
It was the Board of Health for many years,
Yeah.
but I don't know how it was written up.
Complaints would come to them and then to the
Right.
police.
But I don't know if it went, if they adopted the state law and just went under that, or, I'm not sure. So I don't wanna say for sure and put up the wrong information there.
Okay, is that a plan? Is that a
Yep.
plan?
Yep.
To,
Sounds like a plan to me.
all right. It's a tough one. It's a,
It's no easy.
we're down to planning board accounts, and I think we're gonna turn the conversation over to Christina.
Yes. Okay, I've been working with this for about 6 months, and, what I have is, this is in your packet. What this lists is all, accounts currently under the purview of the planning board. It also lists the current balance of every one of those accounts. You'll note that the first 4 are, town accounts, they're 001 accounts, i.e. these were the funds voted to the town, or to the planning board by the town, and we've been using through those. In the central column, funds associated with, I put in, basically what that money is to be used for or where it's coming from. If you go
That's
down,
the 200 series?
then that was the 001 series from the very
Okay.
beginning. So the my wage, the planning board expense, Montechusett Regional Planning District, and then the master plan account. All of those are, that's what they are, the current balance is at the moment, and
And-
what they were meant to be used for.
And they are annually allocated to the planning board.
They are. That's what we went over in our budget, not last meeting, but the meeting before, what the budget is for next year for the planning board.
All right.
I put these on here just for completeness, basically. The next account on here is the affordable housing gift. That account is currently at 0. As I explained in a previous meeting, the monies within that account, which were originally $20,000, all given by Madison Green,
Right.
were used to fund the housing production plan with Dick Heaton, H&H. And also to fund a affordable housing clerk for a time. During the time period that they were having the affordable housing meetings and working on the affordable housing plan, they also funded a clerk to help them with all of their minutes and everything else they needed. So that brought that account to 0. There's now no money in there, and I believe that the town accountant is going to close that because it was an account only opened for that gift.
Do you excuse me, do you have like, the beginning balance and pay, and get down to 0? Do you have that breakdown?
I have 5 years of the account that bring it down to 0, yes.
Does it make sense?
It does make sense. I started actually not at 20, they actually made 3 payments, it was 10 and then 5 and 5.
Okay.
So, and all of those were, they went to, Well, technically there was one $150 amount in there that was unaccounted for, but it turns out it was actually just deposited in the wrong account. And I worked with Lori Bartkus and we
Oh.
moved that over. It was an accident based on the turnover. I pulled the turnover from, I think it was 2017 or 18. Found out what the problem was and we moved it to the correct account.
And does the board understand the source of the money and the
Mhm.
destination of the money?
Yes.
So back to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
There had been questions about the moose horn gift. The moose horn gift actually predates this by probably another 5 to 10 years. That money was not put into this account. This account was actually specifically opened for Madison Green. With regards to the moose horn account, all funds that come into the town municipally go in through the accountant and then are audited on a regular basis. And after audits are complete in the town, the records don't have to be kept. So that had a problem because I do not know where the moose horn money went. There's really no way to track it. I went through all the files I had. I talked to the accountant, but the moose horn amount was for $5,000, and I have no way to track that. But as I said, an audit was done, so I'm sure that the funds were used for what they were allocated for, because they were audited just like every other municipal money that went through the town.
They were obtained in the same way. In other words, a project wanted to compensate the town for removing part of the project from the affordable housing category and putting it into a regular commercial category. And have we approached, well, if it's been audited, what do you call it, audited?
Yes.
If it's been audited, how long ago was the audit done? I mean,
Well,
it must have
they're
been
done
years.
regularly, so that money came in, I think, in 2006. So it's been a long time. It's been
Yeah.
13 years. There's been probably more than one done in that time period.
Oh, I think they're done, they're here now, they were here today.
Right.
Auditors. I think it's done annually. Okay, are we satisfied with that accounting?
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
So now down to the next,
Was there a reason why, the Moose Lawn was only 5,000 and the Madison Green was 20,000?
I can't tell you the reason. I could speculate, but I can't tell you.
And your speculation is?
Number of units.
Cause
That's speculation.
Cause the Madison Green was only 2 units.
Well, maybe the other one was only one, I'm not sure. Also, maybe time, 2006 is different than 2000. What was the,
that was in, I believe, 2014 is when the money came in,
Yeah.
started coming in from Madison Green.
so time value of money? Could be a number of reasons. I think the key is that if it's made it through the auditing process, then the state is confident enough they don't even have to keep the records. So it must have been a appropriate use. Okay?
Okay, down to the next. This is where it gets a little bit complicated. Everything from there, 232, 235, and I'm reading the first number in the column. 234 and 237, those 4 accounts are the primary accounts of the planning board. And the reason they're slightly out of order, you see it's 232, 235, 234, is because 232 and 235 are both 53 E&1/2 accounts. I know it sounds silly. I have a problem with E&1/2, but it's a standard revolving account. Basically, all of our fees, all of our special permits, everything that we get in from applicants, A&R, application fees, all go into a standard revolving account. Our general bylaws spell out exactly what goes into those accounts. And right here, I've written down exactly what comes out. Expenses related to site plan review, special permit, subdivision applications, zoning bylaw and subdivision regulation revisions, training, consultants, and administrative support. All of that is the only thing, that's a lot, that can come out of that account. But if, any of us needed training or even administrative support, like another person to help, it would come out of that account.
What goes into that account?
Fees, all related fees that come into the planning board go into that account. Unless it is a amount of money specifically being given to be given to our consultant. So if like we have to fund places, that does not go into a 53E&a half.
All right, that goes into a 53G, right?
Yes, that goes into a
Okay.
53G.
So let's stay with 53.5s.
Okay.
This money is fees.
Yes.
And fees are not taxes. And fees become available to the planning board for the expenses you listed in that column.
Yes.
We can spend the money ourselves. We can allocate it, and with a vote, we can spend it on something.
We can go out and have beer and pizza some night.
It's gonna be a
He doesn't
tough
quite
one.
say that.
I don't think that would be appropriate, but.
So that's the sources and uses of the money.
Why is it two accounts, why isn't it just one?
That's actually a very good question. I looked into that with Lori Barkas. According to MGL, and I looked into this myself, we are permitted to have more than one. There's nothing saying we can't. Most other boards and committees only have one. And so her suggestion was that what we do is we zero out one of them and only use the other. And so 232, we were just going to transfer the money into that one so that going forward, and I'll be writing a procedure for the planning board admin position so that going forward, no matter who's where, it'll all go into that account and there'll be less confusion going forward.
But it looks like the money shrunk. If I look at the current balance of 2297 and 13881.
I'm sorry, where are you?
I'm in the current balance column,
Yes,
the 232 and the 235 accounts.
yes.
I add those two numbers together. For instance, if you're gonna zero out the 13881.
Yes.
Does it get added into?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're looking at proposed balance. I haven't gotten to why that number is the way it is.
Okay, I would.
Okay, so yeah, I know that doesn't add, those don't add together to make that.
Yeah, I would hope that the sum of the parts equals the whole.
Yes,
yeah.
they will, of those four,
So that,
equal the whole,
that
so-
12,000 isn't official yet.
No, well, I'll explain that in just a moment.
Okay.
The problem we've had in the past is that because, the monies have been occasionally deposited into the wrong account, like the 53Gs, our standard revolving accounts at the moment contain monies that were meant for consultants. In fact, the Borrego money for 147 Williamsville Road was accidentally deposited into a 53E&a half, which is a revolving account, instead of a 53G, which is why you'll see in 237 my proposed balance for that is I want to keep, because 147 is the most complicated project we have open. We have two 53Gs, and I'm not proposing we get rid of either. I'm proposing that we use one of them as sort of our big project, because we don't often have more than one. And we put the $12,000, which Borrego gave us to complete their 147 Williamsville Road project, into that account. And then we have two currently open projects, one for 91 and one for 95, and I apologize, Ken.
No, I would just say, you understand all this?
I do.
God bless you.
One for 91 and one for 95. One gave us a check for 2,000. One gave us a check for 2,500. And both of those I want to put in 234, which is our other consulted funded project, to make 4,500. All of the other money that are in those accounts, it actually belongs to the planning board, and so it's going to get moved back into 232, and the current that would make the balance of $12,090. I have run this by the town accountant, so I'm not the only one who understands it, and I've also, sent a copy of this to Ryan, because he told me that the accounts were the number one priority, and I've been sorting through these for the last 6 months.
Wow.
But
So.
will you produce the in, from, date, out, from, to, will you produce such a detailed list?
Going forward, I will.
But you're not gonna recreate some of the
I'm
history?
not going back for 10 years and doing that.
Oh,
no.
not 10 years.
Well, or even for
But-
5. The problem is I did that for several accounts, not necessarily for 235 or 234, but like Borrego, some of the money that went into one of 3 accounts, and then monies were paid out of like one. So actually, we were taking money from here to pay places when the money was actually here and here. So when I got into that kind of complication, I started basically backtracking and going, okay, what do we have open? So where does that money need to be? And everything else that's left in those accounts have to be fees that were misdeposited into another account, and the town accountant agrees with me that all money.
So the fees will move into the fee category?
Yes, everything will be moved into the fee category.
Those misplaced fees?
Basically, and so what our
Alright.
end balances will be is what is in the last column, proposed balances. 232 will have that amount of money, $12,090.89. 234, which is a 53G consulted funded account, will have 4,500, which will incorporate two projects at the moment, 91 and 95 Williamsville. And then 237, because that's our largest account, and we sort of want to keep that one separate, is going to go into, is going to be the
That's
Borrego money.
147.
Is going to be 147.
How about the
Makes sense.
Borrego money down at Gardner?
I'm sorry,
How about the Gardner Road Borrego?
we don't have any money on hand for the Borrego Gardner.
All right, then this money is exclusive of the surety money.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, that's the last 6 accounts here, the escrow accounts.
All right,
Account types?
let's not go there yet then.
Can I
Okay,
ask a question?
yes.
How are we gonna go forward, and if you leave, or somebody next door leaves, or in the treasurer's office here, how do we know this isn't gonna happen again? How can we fix that? Is there a
I'm gonna be writing a
process?
procedure.
Okay,
I'm gonna be writing a procedure that I'm gonna copy to our town accountant, I'm also gonna copy to the town administrator, so that going forward, when these are done, when turnovers are done, it's, if it is a fee, it goes into here. If it is for this, it goes into here.
oh, that's
And
great.
because there are 2 accounts technically being held in 234, I'm also saying, hold a spreadsheet. I mean, it's $2,000, it's not
Right,
whatever, but we wanna make sure we have the in and out, so at the end of this, if, 91 is owed a check for $70, we wanna make sure we have, you paid this is what we took out, here's your $70,
Right.
account
We,
closed.
we owe them everything we don't spend.
Exactly,
That's not our money. Our money
Exactly.
is only fees.
and that's why I
now-
wanted to separate it out.
The 53G accounts.
I hope not.
I'm sorry?
Are you leaving us?
Not tonight,
I'm sorry?
Oh.
not tonight.
Oh, great. The 53G accounts.
Yes.
My understanding is you can open up as many 53G accounts as you want.
That is correct.
In the future, it would be my recommendation that anytime we get a new project,
Mhm.
even a little baby one, we open up a 53G account for that specific project.
Okay,
And if we get a $3,000 check from the guy that's gonna do the landscaping, I think, what did we get, a $2,000 check from him?
Mm-hmm.
If we got a $2,000 check from him, we identify a 53G as 91 Williamsville Road landscaping project.
right,
And we put some words after it, 53G hyphen 91 Williamsville Road landscaping project.
the only problem is you can't really close these accounts, they're municipal accounts, so they need to remain open.
Well, we can zero them.
We can zero them, but then you would wanna reuse them. You'd say, oh, this 53G account, it has 0 in it, why don't we just use this as opposed to creating a brand new one and just making our list infinitely long?
Well, they're carrying the same number.
I'm sorry?
They're carrying the same number, 234, 237, the 175, 53, 80,
Right,
and
that, I'm just saying,
0000.
instead of labeling the account numbers, I mean, one of them actually is called Ansar, because it was originally opened to handle the Ansar account. I can't change that name. So rather
Okay.
than naming the accounts, I mean, I have no problem opening a couple more, though I do need to talk to the accountant, there was some concept that we might be running out of accounts.
All
in the
right.
town of
Well,
Hubbardston.
the fallback position then would be that you have 1 or 2 53Gs.
Right,
But then you incorporate your spreadsheet
Spreadsheet.
concept.
Yes.
And
That
it's
makes sense.
entry 1, entry 2, entry 3.
right, so we
That
know
would work.
exactly how much is where, and I have that right now, a break it out of that.
Okay. When you get this, totals the way you want them, and I'd like to see it before we get it over to the town.
Okay.
Before we hand it in, so to speak.
Okay,
I'd like to just review the numbers,
Right.
just so I understand what's happening. I don't have any problem with the escrow accounts, but the accounts all above that, the ones above that, the top 2/3 of the sheet.
That's something we could all see a copy of?
Yeah, we
Okay.
wanna look
That's
at
fine.
that number, those numbers before we,
okay, well,
Hand
these
them
are
in.
those numbers, so I'm not sure, I mean, I can tell you exactly how much is transferring between accounts.
well, for instance,
Okay.
if we have, how did what might be a total of 15,000 something shrink to 12,000?
I'll show you that. The 4 accounts, 232, 235, 234, and 237.
Mm-hmm.
If you take those 4 numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and we keep those separate because of course those are the 4 we're are most responsible for. Those 4 numbers, if you add them up, equal the 4 in the proposed balance column.
Yes.
Oh.
So those 4 numbers, if you divide them out and take out the 12,000, the 4,000, and the 12,000, all equal. Those 2 columns are equal. So
However-
what happened is the money had to move because, as I said, one of the 53 and a halves received Borrego money. And we don't want that in a revolving account, we want that in its own separate account so we can pay Bill
Right.
Murray for what he's doing currently to close out 147.
So, as you said earlier, and it's just starting to sink in now, a fee or more correctly, a revolving account amount
Mm-hmm.
was mistakenly put into the fee category.
Yes, and vice
Okay.
versa. We've had
Yeah.
consultant money put into the revolving, we've also
So-
had fees put into the consultant.
So net,
Yes, those
these
four
four
accounts.
numbers equals those
four numbers, yes.
Okay.
Is
I
this something
apologize
you
for not
could-
explaining that.
Is that something you feel a need to have in a spreadsheet, or do we take, is that what you're talking about, Tom?
I can send you the
Well-
actual breakdown, the one I sent to Lori Barkis, the town accountant, that says, this money will move to here, this money will move to here, this money will move to here. I can send you that email to the board, that's not an issue.
All right, then, one more question. I don't see, a complete list of projects. I see the solar projects, but I don't see the, gravel pits or anybody else that might have had surety money.
I don't know of any other surety money aside from these are the ones that were presented to me by the town accountant.
So we're not holding anything for Marinelli or
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Cataisto or anything?
Not that I'm aware
I
of,
thought
no.
Cataisto still had $10,000 or $12,000.
In conversation, there was still money that
Yeah.
they paid in, I don't recall the amount, but he did mention that.
Did they pay it out or did they keep it? Cause they're supposed to keep it.
He was telling me that the town still has that money.
Yeah, that should be on here.
Okay, I can look into whether or not there's
There
other
are-
surety money.
Yeah, look for any other projects that might have surety money. If, now that I think about it, if Marinelli had surety money, we would've spent it by now and fixed the place up. But Cataisto, I do remember, an amount.
And once I have all this to you, as I said, I'll send that email out to you. I will need a vote and signatures from the board in order to move these funds around.
Okay, and
So-
would you please, put your name and date on these, so that we know if we get a revision, we know the source and we know the date, or the rev number or something. Cause I remember seeing one of these back in, October maybe,
Yes,
and, we just ought to track the,
right. Well, that didn't have any
Mhm.
balances on it, that was just to
Yeah.
give you an idea of what the accounts open were.
yeah, but as you make revisions, keep updating them.
Got it?
Date, a rev number or something.
Can I ask a
That'd
question?
be great.
Sure,
About the last, the surety monies?
yes.
So, are these monies, actual cash that are being held, or are they bonds, do you know?
Cash,
That these people have deposited
cash.
and they're for decommissioning, they're to be
Yes.
held in perpetuity till they're decommissioned?
Well, 20 years,
20 years, yeah.
until they make up their mind whether they decommission it or not. They have to come in for a special permit or an extension or something, and, review the situation and either take it out and spend it on decommissioning and tear the thing down, or
So are
put
these,
it back in the bank.
are these funds, I mean, it's, you know, more than $500,000, is it income earning? And does the
Yes.
town get?
But all
keep
goes
it?
back to them. No, the
They're-
escrow, all the money goes
okay, it's
back
like a-
into that account.
And escrow will go to them.
It is income earning, but
But
the town does not benefit.
The earnings go to them,
Yes.
yeah, okay, like
It's their
tenants
money.
accounts and so
Yes.
forth, yes, okay.
Like a lawyer holding an account
Yes,
as
got it.
escrow, and that interest goes to the,
Thanks, I just wanted to know, thanks.
I believe it's held by either Unibank or Bartholomew in Boston, in Worcester. I think
Okay.
these are Unibank. Low interest rate, you know,
risk.
preservation of capital
Yeah,
and
I got it,
that
thanks.
stuff.
Thanks.
Good job.
Yeah,
Not much
Thank
fun to
you.
sort all that out, but
Thank
good
you for
job.
doing that.
Okay, so I'll bring all that and get you guys the information for the next meeting, and hopefully we can just vote on it and make that closed.
I got a couple of questions.
Sure,
How many hours do you put in?
I'm sorry,
How many hours are you allowed to work?
15
15
a week, yes.
a week?
Yep.
How the hell do you get all this done?
I'm very efficient.
And you're
Boy, you
strictly
set her up, didn't you?
No, and, well, that's good, I'm glad,
Hey.
and this is strictly for the
No.
planning board.
No,
Yes.
and thank you for what you're doing, it's a big
No.
help, and we appreciate it.
I just have a lot of background in data analysis.
Okay.
It
That's
sounds
what I
like you've
did.
done a little bit of this before.
Yeah.
To
Oh,
be
yes.
perfectly honest, I think you're very underpaid.
Oh, thank
But I
you.
do have a question, Tom, why is she making 20 cents more an hour, total than we are?
Because you're a
She's
volunteer.
making significantly more than me.
No, Christina, you do a hell of a job.
No, you
and
do.
You are
Very good job.
underpaid.
I think we had a review here. Did everyone contribute to her review?
I did.
Yes, we do.
And I hope that she did very well with that, or that the town did well with
There are constraints at the town level, but.
I understand
I had a
that.
quick question. Can somebody describe where where the facilities for K Solar and the Hubbardston Solar? These are the first time I've heard of them, that's why I'm asking.
What is the word you're saying?
Hubbardston Solar and KS Solar.
K
These are
Solar.
actually the names associated with the accounts, like Seaboard is no longer Seaboard. Seaboard is now True Green.
Yes, but it still says Seaboard Swap, but I'm familiar with that one.
Okay.
All right,
But
let's go through 'em.
KS Solar and Hubbardston Solar.
All right. Borrego, let's take them from the top. The Borrego $106,000 one is the 230-something Gardner Road. All right? You're familiar with them?
I'm not questioning those, I'm questioning,
I
I'm
know, I'm
just
just gonna
asking
go
a
down the
question.
list so that we're all tuned up.
Yeah.
Hubbardston Solar, I believe, is 95 Williamsville Road. And I challenge the amount. KS Solar, I believe, is Pitcherville. And I have these at home, so I'll come in next time prepared to describe them. Seaboard Solar is no longer Seaboard Solar, but it's 91 Williamsville Road. And Borrego Williamsville is 147 Williamsville. I might have one or two of those screwed up, but I think that's the list. And I can verify it at home. The assessors puts out
That'd be good.
puts
Thank
out a
you.
list.
And
Thank you,
these
Tom.
amounts are current as of last month, just so you know.
Yeah. Now, the first one I mentioned on Gardner Road, there's actually two there.
Yeah.
$53,000 each. I don't know why the numbers are so small on the next two. That's potentially a typo. I will give you what I have.
Okay.
Or a mistranslation. The 50,000 looks right and the 426 looks right. Commercial development guidelines, they're up someday, maybe next year, we'll put a little meeting together and see the town's appetite for developing such guidelines before a wave of commercial activity hits us. Electronic filing project. Could I ask a question? You said you work 15 hours a week,
Yes.
but I thought we authorized a few more.
Yes, on Mondays.
So how many total do you get to work now?
I can work up to 20.
Okay. What we did was we took unspent money from the early part of the year, and we're applying it to the end of the year. And of course, it has to be at her discretion, both from managing her personal life point of view and also from getting the work done. So we have authorized more hours for her.
Now, the town did?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah, fully paid, right out of the same account. And feel free to use them. Every hour you spend is a good work product. Can you tell
Tom?
us about the filing?
I'm sorry, just so that we're clear, I just got a thing from Lori Barkowitz 2 days ago, and those numbers are accurate for Hubbardston KS, so I'm not sure if there's another account, those are being,
Yeah, they might be an accurate number, but they're not the decommissioning number. They must be some other, they might be something held, for instance, in a revolving account or something left over. The decommissioning numbers, I think, are significantly larger.
Okay.
And I'll dig that up and give you a spreadsheet I have. I don't have it with me. Electronic filing, we haven't made much headway on that. We've only got 2 months left. We have some money, and we could hire a high school kid or something to, I should say, we could hire a student to, do some scanning and build a little prototype maybe, or, like a demo of this project, rather than try to bite off the whole project. That's a huge thing. But we could do a little demo and maybe, proof of concept and proof of benefits. If the benefits emerge, great idea. If they don't, then we don't do it. Anybody have an appetite for that?
How much
Se-
money's
Senior
available?
work off?
They could, I know that the town administrator is currently doing, further grants on the electronic filing project for the entire town, so.
Yeah. I was just trying to dabble in it to get a sense. If you go out and you buy software and the software salesman says, oh, it's gonna do everything you want it to do,
Mhm.
and you buy it, then they go back into their laboratories and reprogram the thing to do what you want it to do, and you're getting a alpha issue. You're getting the first time it's ever been done that way.
Mhm.
And that's where software purchasing is so difficult. But if we did it ourselves and built a little model, we might know better what to ask them for.
Who would build the model though, Tom, a high school student?
Yeah, I'm talking a very simple thing. Just take 5 addresses and scan the street files and see if we can arrange them and see if we can get a outside connection to it. And, is that, I mean, ultimately, that's where this is going. You
Right,
can
right.
You can sit in your real estate office in Boxborough and look at the records in Hubbardston rather than having to
Right.
drive all the way out here.
Right, which is nice.
Yeah, I think that would help our housing market a lot.
And we indexed by assessor's lot references or
By
addresses or?
street address.
Street address.
That's how it's arranged now. Maybe there's a better way.
Do we have seed money for this put away that we're gonna lose or something?
Well, we have money in our budget. We have, I think, $2,000. And I don't think we lose it. We give it back to the town. That's not really a
Well,
loss,
I mean,
but,
it's been
I think
earmarked
I'd
for
rather
those
try
projects.
something than be idle.
Might be better spent on having somebody look at the towns that have done this and the different models. And then inform us, you know what I mean, how other towns have done it.
What do you know about what's going on?
I can check with, Ryan, they may have already, queried other towns. Not only that.
That's true, that's a good idea.
Yeah, my only concern about trying to do a local model is, our scanning software won't be able to do OCR I'm sorry, optical character recognition.
Just do 8.5 by 11s.
No, I mean, you won't be able to search them. And
Oh,
when they
that's
get
right.
them done outward professionally, usually they use a scanning software that allows for the documents to be searchable. So if you're looking for a deed that you know used to belong to this person, you could look by that name, as opposed to if we just scan it in, PDFs that are just scanned in normally are not normally searchable.
Yeah. Well, can you give us a little report on what the town's doing in the
Yep.
big picture? At least we'll keep in step with them.
Got it.
I got two hands up here. Ed, you were first.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I remember at a previous meeting that, that because the scanning would encompass the whole town, that Ryan was going to be heading up that for the whole town rather than doing it as a board.
And I agree completely.
And, so I think he was gonna look into that, whether it was feasible for the whole town and maybe certain departments over other departments, but instead of it doing it under one board, he was gonna do it
Yep.
to blanket the town.
That's
I
fine.
would suggest that, and the ideas that are presented here are good. I think that the planning board has unique potential requirements. And to put those requirements forth so that Brian knows what they are is probably the most important part. So that if there are unique features that you're looking as part of a scanning software, that he can therefore incorporate when he's doing an RFP, a request for proposal, I think that makes a lot more sense. In my opinion, you get more bang for the buck out of something of that nature but that obviously implies that you need to know what it is that you're looking for. Let me give you an example. My understanding would be is that from a planning board perspective, where you have a lot of documents with plans and measurements and things of that nature, typically what people are looking for are commonalities. Things are, for example, what's the distance from the center of town, or how many neighbors do I have that abut me, and things of that nature. And at this point in time, most of the software that is out there from a scanning perspective will not necessarily do that. However, there are software companies that do provide that level of service. And they are very unique because what they're doing is they're catering to planning boards, or they're planning to they cater to architectural firms that work with companies such as towns like ours. And so coming together with a set of requirements as a planning board, I think, might be the most effective and efficient way that then you can present that to Ryan and have Ryan incorporate that as part of his requirements when he's looking for a solution. And that's just a suggestion to the board here.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Thank you, Francois.
You're welcome.
Anything else on electronic filing, or do we wanna push on the agenda?
Okay.
Well, until we get.
I think what we're gonna do is kind of wait for Brian
Yeah.
and feed him, make sure that he knows the planning board's requirements as they exist. I hear you. Much of what, like, abutters and this kind of thing is available through the GIS system. And, dimensionally, you can,
Yes.
a lot of people use Google Earth, but there must be some other unique requirements. Certainly legibility and, you know, the ability to read big drawings, and we're not handling, all 8.5 by 11, we're handling these big sheets. And by the way, along these same lines, going forward, we should be, and I think we are, requesting everything coming in electronic. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we get in our drawings, you know, AutoCAD or PDFs or something, so.
Makes it a lot better.
Okay, affordable housing, over to you, Alice.
Well, I guess the production plan, I'm looking at your note here. It was finally submitted, right? And we've heard
Yes.
nothing, right?
We have heard that it's been received, that's all.
That's it, okay.
We're waiting on approval.
Yeah, well, that's a big hurdle to get through. I was looking at, how to get some more information on affordable housing, just what's out there. And so I saw this, there's this group, Mass Housing Partnership, that does seminars on affordable housing and how to attract it. And they have a big seminar, which is the one that's referenced here, June 5th and 6th, which is everything you wanna know about Massachusetts Housing Partnership laws and coalitions, and it's a 2-day seminar. I was hoping to go, but I can't go because I have a family wedding. But there is down in.
Now, just because your daughter's getting
Yeah.
married, doesn't
No,
mean you
it's
shouldn't
not-
go to the affordable housing.
It's not my daughter, but it
Oh.
is out of town, and it
Okay.
is, we're a little family, and I wouldn't skip the family wedding. So but there is a CPA and community housing training seminar that's May 10th, which is a Friday, from 9 to 3. And so I signed up for it, it's in Framingham. Because we do have CPA money, and I'd like to know how how other people have used it and made it work. So I thought I'd go and at least get my feet wet learning a little more than I know.
Excellent.
So,
No, I got-
I was
Okay.
gonna take Christina with me, but she's graduating.
Yeah, sorry.
But maybe you would wanna go to the 5th and 6th one. in
I did
June.
check with Ryan, and he says that could be covered by my training expenses, so
I think it'd be worth going.
I can
if
go to
we're-
the 5th and 6th.
Oh, that's
if you
awesome.
wanna do
And bring
it.
back all the notes like I did for the last
Yeah, that's great.
conference.
Yeah, if you could do that, that'd be wonderful. So,
So what day would you think, the 10th, you said?
I'm going May
May
10th,
10th.
next Friday. And it's in, the Plymouth Church in Framingham.
Oh, I know
And
what
it's
that
sponsored
is.
by Mass Housing Partnership, but it's specifically about CPA and community housing training.
And so what's June 5th and 6th?
That's the other-
That's
right
the
here on
whole
the
Mass
sheet.
Housing
Oh.
Partnership Housing
On the bottom.
I
Institute,
thought I was reading it.
where they go through.
Oh, okay.
everything.
a much bigger picture than what they're doing on the 10th, which is focused on CPA, so. I think it'd be great if you could go, Christina.
I'm going to plan on it.
Awesome.
Well, so we're waiting for the state to respond.
Yes, on the approval of the housing production
Yep.
plan.
You know, if that's gonna be the basis of the housing chapter in the, master plan, there should be a little updating done on things that had been noted. So.
Yeah.
You need to, if they're gonna take that on, we need to point that out. That
Right.
There's a list of some things, more current demographics and stuff.
Right.
The next one is, are we ready to
Yep.
flip the page?
Yep.
Updating Hubbardston subdivision rules and regs. Bill Murray volunteered to do that, and he said it would take several months, if I remember correctly. Is that
Yes.
the topic we're on?
He
And,
actually said he was going to volunteer to do it, yes.
Yeah, so we'll let him volunteer the heck out of that. This is not major change, this is things that he noted. Some law changes and some minor stuff. 147 Williamsville Road, I've seen a couple emails going back and forth. It rained so much in April that they put off their construction phasing implementation. I believe the site is idle.
Yes, they're not moving ahead yet. Bill
Yeah.
Murray emailed me about that, because of the April rain.
Yeah.
They can't even get erosional control in there yet, so.
Joint benchmarking meeting, May 13th. Christina, we'll miss you. Is the benchmarking slideshow or PDF or something up on our website?
I
think it is.
think it is, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think we could get the whole thing up because it would have been minuscule. I'm not sure that actually went up there because it was so much MRPC data, but I'll check. I'm not sure, but
What do you mean by minuscule?
some of your Excel spreadsheets went on for 40
Oh,
cells.
yeah. Well, that was the whole DOR database.
Right, but the PowerPoint made it up, I believe.
Okay, that's all we need, because it has a sample of the spreadsheet. That'd be good. Can we get an estimate of attendance at that, May 13th?
This is the presentation you presented to us with the
Well-
towns.
It's the select board, the
Yeah.
finance committee, and the planning board.
Mhm.
The finance committee did a benchmarking thing, and I believe their presentation is up on their website. It was done largely by Mr. Lerner, I think his last name is. And then I did one, taking a little different angle on the same data.
Mhm.
And the select board have been charged with trying to get the vision in focus. And we're gonna meet and discuss all that on May 13th. So, all three.
What day
three
is
boards.
the week and?
That's
I
a
believe that's a
Monday.
Monday.
Monday at,
In
It's,
fact, it's,
It is a Monday.
I believe it's part of
Two-
the select board's meeting,
Yeah, it's-
normal meeting, so I don't know what time it is. I'm
it's 2
sorry.
Mondays from,
okay. Is
Um,
it 6 or 6:30 they start?
Give me a second, I can-
6:30, I think.
Okay.
I can come.
Thirteen's at 6:30.
okay, thank you. Associated committees.
Yes, I'd mentioned the fact, I was looking at other committees and the fact that we actually have a board member on 3 other committees. I didn't know, with regards to that, I know that they're for 1-year terms, cause I'm trying to get up a calendar of all the things that have to be voted on or the board votes to put the members on these committees. So I was trying to get up a vote because in July we'll have to do a vote on who's on these committees, so I wanted to bring them up, just put them out here. And also, I didn't know, because I've never actually attended these other meetings, if this was something the planning board needed to be kept aware of. What is the planning board, is there pertinent data going on in these meetings that needs to be reported back to the planning board, or what? So that's why I just wanted to bring it up and put it on the agenda.
Have we actually had members attending these meetings this year?
Yes, all three of them were Tom.
Yeah, but
Oh,
there's actually
okay.
a list of about 8 or 10. For instance, we have a representative to the select board, we have a representative to the Board of Health, Bill. We have a
Zoning Board of
representative-
Appeals.
Yeah, a zoning board of appeals. We had a, quite a long list, so this is only, you're correct, I was named for those 3, but must be 8 more. I think Craig was the select board.
Mm-hmm.
You were Board of Health, Board of Appeals.
Certain boards, though, actually have to have a member of the planning board on it. Like, I'm not sure, does the Board of Health have to have a planning
No.
board member on it?
No, we established liaison.
Oh, okay.
Um,
These are the
but
ones that
you're-
actually have to have members of the planning board on them.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I remember that,
Yeah.
when I first got on last year, there we go,
Okay.
yeah.
We voted that up in, I bet it was June 24th last year.
Okay, I'll look that up.
And if you don't have it, I think I have it, so I'll look for it too. But I think what your question is what does the participant at another committee owe this committee in the way of a small report or something?
Or something like that, just so that,
Yeah.
so I was just looking at that from,
I think, there's 2 sources of information already existing. Ryan's, all boards report
Mhm.
that comes out would cover these boards if they're functioning. For instance, Capital Improvement Planning Committee is not yet fully assembled. Economic Development Committee, I think, has had 1 or 2 meetings. And the CPC has about 5 meetings per year, and culminates, of course, in the annual town meeting votes. And they all also publish meeting minutes, or they're obligated to.
okay.
So they're pretty well reported if you wanna dig into them. Sometimes the meeting minutes are a little laggy. If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to go through it. The Capital Improvement Planning Committee, as I said, hasn't been assembled yet. Economic Development Committee met once, met a second time, and I missed the second meeting. In the first meeting, we were just kind of groping around to figure out what this was. And the CPC has resulted in us retaining the $50,000, what do you call it, affordable housing CPC funds. So, that's my mini report.
Thank you, Tom.
New business. Let's get the meeting minutes up.
There we go.
January 24th.
I'll make a motion to approve them.
I'll second that.
Any discussion, any comments, revisions?
No, I thought they were perfect.
I didn't see anything that needed correcting.
I'm sorry, Ken, you can't second, you were absent at that meeting, so I need a second, second, please.
Second.
Okay.
when they're approved, you'll spiff up the dates and whatnot, and then I'll come over and sign them?
Yes.
Okay. There's a fourth attachment, is that a missing thing, or is that just room for more?
I think it was a typo.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Comment? And Kendall is a abstainer. So it was, three in favor. That passes. Another one is in. February 7.
Make another motion to approve the minutes of February 7th.
I'll second that.
Have you made the revisions to the rules and regulations for the fees? The fee, I should say it differently. Has the fee schedule been public?
No, actually, under the updating Hubbardston subdivision rules and regulations, I included the note on the thing here that the admin did not complete the list. We'll have it for the June meeting. Remember, there was the cleanup list of, typos within the rules and regulations I was gonna work on. I just got the accounts done, and so I really just pushed that and didn't have time for the cleanup list.
But if we don't make public the fees, do they go into effect?
We have a fee schedule that is it is
That's
already
right.
up.
Okay,
With
good.
the, thing on it, so that's sort
Okay.
of,
That's what.
and we have the vote that says that the fees were voted in, so they're
Okay.
official now and.
But the public can see it though.
Exactly, if they go into
Yeah.
rules and regulations, they're gonna notice a
Yeah.
little bit of a discrepancy, but,
Right,
we have the vote in the list, so.
okay.
Any other discussion?
Well, sounds good.
Okay, and, do we have a motion and a second? I've lost track.
Yes.
You made the motion
Motion,
and
Ken
Ken seconded it.
Okay, everybody legal on seconding?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
That's 4-4, carries. I think one of the handouts here for the meeting minutes, where am I in the agenda? The master plan assignments, I think we're doing pretty good on that.
I had that at the second page because, we did have Jonathan coming in.
Yeah.
And, when I went through to try and find out the master plan chapters, cause remember we've had this question about where are they?
Yeah.
You know, several times, these are
Never
the
seen
two, or actually, technically it's three, cause on the front is this, and on the back is what you wrote and what the state requires. So there's 10 on one, 22 on there, and 17 here. But I guess, the list they gave us today was very comprehensive. I think it only had 8 or 9 chapters.
Right, makes it
So I
better.
think, we have a better understanding,
Mhm.
but I wasn't sure what he would bring, so I realized that my handout was a little superfluous.
We still wanna tap into police, fire, DPW, school. We still need to, we were gonna send out request letters?
Yes, and that was, or the form that
Yeah.
had been discussed. The only reason I didn't actually get to that yet was because, we were waiting to find out if we got the second DLTA grant. Because sending out our own form and then having DLTA go and question them again, I feel it would be a little bit
Yeah,
follow
poor
up.
form.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, we're gonna have you fill this out. Oh, now you're gonna have to sit and answer those exact same questions to this gentleman. So,
You wanna wait a little?
because now it's like we have the DLTA, now we might have EOEI, which is another 3 chapters. I mean, based on the schedule they were looking at, there's a possibility if we get the DLTA grant again next year, we could have the master plan done next year, which would
wow.
be incredible.
And,
We need that help badly to get this a big
On this
project.
other page, we need to update this.
No, that
Well,
was
it's
just,
kind of
those are superfluous after the handout you got today of the master plan.
Okay.
So that was just sort of, recapping what we already had.
Right.
But he really truncated it and sort of put it all together in his PowerPoint presentation.
and, he also mentioned that we should, have some kind of a public forum to find out what the town wants, and then have another second public forum to inform the town of what we did with what they told us.
Right.
I wanna remind everybody that there was a survey done in January 2017. My memory serves me right.
Mhm. That's-
Pretty good response, and the results are up on our website.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
might just go back through that. And what I'm trying to do is say that to me accomplished the first bullet.
Right.
Is, you know, go ask the town what they wanna know. It doesn't preclude that we couldn't have another meeting, but
Right.
that was the starting point.
We've gotta make sure that our consultants get a copy of that.
Well, yeah, we can,
Can you send it to him?
Yes, they're aware of it also. I
Okay.
did mention too that it would be, it would behoove us if, I don't know who had access to that original data. You mentioned when you first saw the survey that there was a unnecessary border chopped off at the top.
It
And,
doesn't have like a cover page, it's just
I know.
odd presentation, if you can
and
fix
so
it.
it looks like somebody tried to just download it by printing it off the internet to a PDF. And so I don't know who has access to that survey data or who has the password to get into SurveyMonkey to get it, but I'm gonna check with maybe Ryan or Lori and see if they do, and if not, you know, hopefully we can get that and maybe pretty it up a little.
would you?
Well, and let these people that are working on the plan know
Yep.
that, and ask them, you know, this, we help, it's a fairly extensive process.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that satisfies the criteria meeting with the public, at least originally?
Right.
There had to have been some input into how those questions were generated too, I don't know.
Absolutely. And, our former colleague, Tom Bratko, was instrumental in doing that. And, if you come up dry with the resources in town, you might ask him. And if you want me to, I'll ask him.
I don't
If he
mind
has
reaching
something.
out.
If he has something in the way of the raw data, but you certainly have the raw data, don't you? It was on Monkey,
The SurveyMonkey is posted on our website.
but
That's,
the data, the raw data,
I'm not sure I do, but I'll have to check.
there was 2 sources of raw data. The paper copies that people checked the boxes, we actually translated from paper to electronic, and then we merged that electronic file with the responses that were generated by SurveyMonkey electronically to begin with. We shoved them together.
I'll look for the raw data then.
Okay. And then I believe he also transcribed everybody's comments. It's a lot of work. He did a tremendous amount of work on that. All right, over on page 2 of this, public hearing on warrant articles 30 articles or article,
I'm sorry, it's article,
and I'm not sure it's 31 anymore.
It's not 31
28
anymore.
and 29.
Yeah.
28 and 29, meeting on the 14th. They've been published in a form. The lawyer looked at them, and the town clerk looked at them, and you looked at them, and
Yeah. We'll be circulating at the town the suggested rewrites for those
yeah.
at the
I think you
public
already,
hearing.
I think you already did, didn't you?
I did, I sent that in the email,
Yeah.
and we'll be discussing,
Yeah.
we'll discuss all that on.
There's a couple words and
14th.
commas that we'll talk about, but the concept is pretty straightforward. So we'll do that on the 14th. Correspondence, what do you got, Christina?
Well, everything that was sent out, the notices of public hearing from adjacent towns, the reports that were asked to be written were all sent to you in email. The one piece of correspondence, that was sort of discussion worthy, I did print out here, and it was a, email, or a letter from Sharon Begley to,
Right.
the select board. But it was copied to us. I didn't know if there was a matter of discussion, but I wanted to make sure it got brought to the meeting.
Right.
It went before the select board, and I believe the select board voted to move it to the town meeting, so,
The acceptance of the road,
yeah.
yeah.
So they, you know, it moved the next square.
Next
so to
up.
speak. Not really in our hands. Anything else on correspondence?
No.
Binding old minutes, planning board expense money.
It wouldn't come out of expense, it would actually come out of our revolving account. The binding of old minutes, town record maintains the minutes of each board in the vault. Joyce has a copy of all old minutes. However, the planning board has not had their minutes bound since their 1994 meetings. My predecessor Patty actually went through and got all of them together and put them in segments by year and even checked, do I have every single one of them? They're really well organized. We've sort of been waiting. The town uses a particular company, and every year or so, the books go on sale. You buy one, you get the second one half off. We have about 16 inches worth of documents, which would translate into about 8 books.
What's the cash?
What
do you need?
$580.
Wow.
Make
That
a
brings us
motion-
from 1994 up to date.
Yes.
Make a motion, we do that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good research, thank you again, Christina.
No, that's something we have to do. We can't eventually change all that to go into, electronic,
A lot of them actually are archived on the website.
but you have to have the hard copy too?
I believe, yes, we do.
Okay.
I checked with,
Does binding them mean we have to take them apart to scan them?
they are not currently bound at all, they're all loose leaf paper.
But if we do bind them, do we screw up our,
No, everything's already scanned onto
Oh.
the website. We have all of the
all the way back?
archived.
All the way back?
I don't know if we have them all the way back to 95, but I know that they're
Would you check?
back to, I'll check.
I don't wanna bind them and then take them apart to scan 'em, so.
Okay.
But, when you get it all straightened out, feel free to move on it.
Okay,
It's authorized.
right.
Okey dokey.
I'd like to point out one thing. I apologize, I got an email today from Ed that he had left a voicemail asking to be on today's agenda. However, because of the town phone system actually lists my phone extension
Extension
as
209.
209, which I didn't know. So I never received his voicemail, so I wanted to make it aware that he did ask to be on tonight's agenda.
Your extension's actually 210?
It is.
Yeah, okay.
It's on the website as 210, but if you
Oh.
call in and listen to the long
Oh,
spiel on the
prompt list,
thing,
okay.
it says 209, so I'm gonna have to talk to Lori. I didn't realize that until tonight. And Ed played it for me.
So Ed's back from Florida.
Yep.
You look tanned.
How long you been down there?
4 months.
Seems like a week.
I work construction down there, that's how I get those good tans.
Good for you.
You what? I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
I work construction down there, that's how I get the tan.
Oh, that's good. What do you got? If you wanna, oh, all right.
No, I'll wait to be on the agenda, I don't wanna.
Well, yeah, it's getting late, but,
Oh, pass.
all right.
I'll make a motion.
Paul, is there anybody else got anything, just before we close up shop?
I'm all set.
I guess we're ready for Bill then.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And thank you again, Christine, good job.